Hey everyone, it's great to see you again. Today, we're rediving into a fascinating question that has intrigued scientists and philosophers for centuries. Are we shaped more by our genes or by our environment? Nature versus nurture. To find the answer, scientists came up with a brilliant idea, studying identical twins who were separated at birth and raised in different families. Genetically, they are perfect copies of each other, so any differences between them must be due to their environment, right? This is the story of the Minnesota Twins study, a groundbreaking project that followed these twins for over 20 years. The story begins in 1979 with a man named Jim Lewis. He was adopted as a baby and grew up knowing he had a twin brother somewhere out there. After 39 years, he finally found him. His brother's name, also Jim Springer. Went aim at the similarities were uncanny, and it wasn't just their name. Both had married women named Linda, divorced Tim, and then remarried women named Betty. Both had a son named James Allen. Both had a childhood dog named Toy. It gets even stranger. Both men were part-time sheriffs, enjoyed woodworking, and smoked the same brand of cigarettes. They even vacationed at the same beach in Florida. It was almost as if they had lived the same life in parallel universes. Their incredible story caught the attention of Dr. Thomas Bouchard at the University of Minnesota. He realized this was a golden opportunity. By studying separated identical twins like the Jim twins, he could untangle the complex web of nature and nurture. And so, the Minnesota Twins study was born. Over the next 2 decades, researchers brought in dozens of pairs of identical twins and fraternal twins who had been raised apart, as well as twins who were raised together. They put them through a battery of tests, measuring everything from their IQ and personality traits to their hobbies and even their dental health. They spent weeks interviewing them, cataloging every tiny detail of their lives. What they found would change our understanding of human behavior forever. The results were astonishing. On almost every measurable trait, the identical twins raised apart were just as similar as identical twins raised together. Think about that for a second. Despite growing up in completely different homes, with different parents, different friends, and different experiences, their core personalities, interests, and even their IQs were remarkably alike. For example, when it came to intelligence, the study found that about 70% of the variation in IQ scores could be attributed to genetics. This suggested that our intellectual potential is largely inherited. It wasn't just about intelligence. The study also looked at personality traits, often called the Big Five: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Here too, genetics played a huge role. Whether you're a social butterfly or a quiet homebody, organized and disciplined or more spontaneous and carefree, a large part of that seems to be written in your DNA. Even things we think are personal choices, like our religious beliefs, political views, and hobbies, showed a surprisingly strong genetic influence. One pair of twins, both raised in devoutly Catholic households, discovered they were both atheists. Another pair, raised in different countries, both had a habit of wearing rubber bands on their wrists. Of course, this doesn't mean our environment is irrelevant. It absolutely matters. The remaining 30% of our intelligence and a significant portion of our personality are shaped by our upbringing, our education, and our life experiences. The researchers call this the nurture component. Imagine genetics gives you a blueprint for a house. The environment is the builder. The builder can't change the blueprint, but they decide what materials to use and how well the house is constructed. Your genes might give you a talent for music, but if you never touch an instrument, that talent will never blossom. Your genes might predispose you to being anxious, but a supportive and loving family can teach you how to manage that anxiety. One of the most famous pairs from the study was Oscar Stur and Jackie Youth. They were separated as infants. Oscar was raised as a Catholic in Nazi Germany and joined the Hitler Youth. Jack was raised by his Jewish father in Trinidad and served in the Israeli Navy. Their upbringings could not have been more different. When they met as adults, they were shocked by their similarities. They both wore wire-rimmed glasses, had mustaches, and enjoyed spicy food. They even had the same quirky habit of flushing the toilet both before and after using it. Despite their drastically different political and religious backgrounds, Their core mannerisms and temperaments were strikingly similar. Their story is a powerful example of how deep the influence of genetics runs. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The Minnesota Twins study taught us that we are not blank slates at birth. We arrive in this world with a set of genetic predispositions that strongly influence who we become. Our DNA is like a script, sketching out the main characters and plot points of our lives. However, we are also the directors of our own movie. The environment, our family, our culture, our choices determines how that script is interpreted and performed. Our genes don't dictate our destiny, but they do deal us a certain hand of cards. It's up to us to decide how to play that hand. The study also has important implications for parenting. It suggests that while parents have a huge impact on their children's well-being and values, they have less control over their basic personality than we might think. As one of the researchers, David Lycan, put it, parenting is not about sculpting a child into a person you want them to be. It is about providing an environment where they can flourish into the person they are genetically meant to be. It's a shift from being a sculptor to being a gardener. You can't make a rose into a sunflower, but you can provide the right soil, water, and sunlight for that rose to grow beautiful and strong. The findings from this study have been both celebrated and controversial. Some people worry that emphasizing genetics could lead to a fatalistic view, where we feel we can't change our lives. But that's a misunderstanding of the science. Knowing about our genetic predispositions can actually empower us. If you know you have a genetic tendency towards a certain health issue, you can make lifestyle choices to mitigate that risk. If you know you're naturally an introvert, you can learn to create a life that honors your need for quiet time instead of forcing yourself to be an extrovert. It's about working with your nature, not against it. In the end, the nature versus nurture debate isn't a battle with one winner. It's a dance. Our genes and our environment are constantly interacting in a complex, dynamic way to make us who we are. The Minnesota Twins study was a monumental step in helping us understand this beautiful and intricate dance. It revealed that the ties that bind us are not just those of family or friendship, but also the invisible, powerful threads of our shared DNA. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that makes you think. See you in the next one.